everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our JA Career Expo with McDonald's Corporation. We are so happy to have you guys join us today and to share just your personal and professional stories with our students. So we have about 300 students that are listening and watching you guys today. So I just want to jump right in because we're starting a few minutes late. So let's just jump right in and start off with some introductions. So I'm going to ask you guys to, I'm going to go around and I'll ask you guys to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your name and your position, and a little brief description about what your job role is. We'll start with Veronica because she was the first one in the room today.
Hi, well, thank you. So my name is Veronica Thompson. I am marketing manager for the Dallas field office at McDonald's. So my role, it varies day to day, but the gist of it is I develop regional marketing programs and marketing strategies for our field office. I work as a liaison between the owner operators, so the ones that actually own the McDonald's restaurants, our company headquarters in Chicago, and then along with our agency partners. So our agency partners are the ones that create the advertising you might see on TV or the billboards, or things you might see on your mobile device on your phone if you get pinged for an ad on social media. I also work a lot with making sure that the brand voice, if you will, aligns with what you see everywhere. So if you see an advertisement here in Texas, I want to make sure that that matches what you also might see in Chicago or Detroit, has that same look and feel. And then another piece of my role that's probably the most interesting or different from other marketing positions is that I work a lot to really influence the outcomes. Our owner operators vote a lot on our marketing strategies from a regional perspective. So I have to make sure that they are aligned to what we want them to do from a marketing perspective. And we all are in agreement with what the next steps are from our branding strategy and marketing strategy.
Wonderful. Thanks, Veronica. Chad, I'm going to move over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your job role is?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us on. I appreciate it. It's pretty cool experience that we're about to have. So first of all, my name is Chad Furler, the Dallas Field Office Finance Manager for McDonald's Corporation. And as you may know, McDonald's is a Fortune 100 company, which is traded publicly. So in terms of my job role, in most everything we do, we ask ourselves the question, what would our shareholders want? This is basically stating, am I going to do what's best for our shareholders' money? And then I'll get into more specifics on that and probably in a couple of questions based on the prelim questionnaires we got.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bryce, we're moving over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Bryce Lee, and I am an operations associate with McDonald's. And what that means is I am boots on the ground in the restaurant. I'm helping them make sure that they are keeping the brand standards. They're following all the rules that we set for them, that they are not burning our fries or undercooking our meat or things of that nature. Or when we have new products coming out, we help them display them and cook them and teach them how to share them with everybody, in the lack of a better word. Again, it's operations, so everything that's pretty much in the restaurant is what we do. We go in and inspect them and make sure, again, that they're at the standard.
Fantastic, fantastic. Susie.
Hi, everybody. I am so super excited to be with you guys here today. I work kind of for what we call Hamburger University. Yep, that's right. I'm a learning and development consultant for the Dallas field office, but I pretty much represent or work with people from all over the country. We are now doing virtual classes, and sometimes there's people from New York in my classes and sometimes from California. And so what I do is I'm responsible for leadership training. So the role of the learning and development consultant is we basically are the teachers kind of, or the facilitators of for our managers. So when Bryce is talking about the specifics of operations and how to work certain equipment and stuff. So my job is to make sure that the leaders are leading with people in mind, and keeping that emotional intelligence and all of that stuff that leaders learn in order to be able to lead people more effectively. So that's what I'm responsible for training, and in all of the restaurants across the country, basically.
Fantastic. Thanks, Susie. We're going to go down to Duran. He's multitasking. If you end up in a drive-through, you're taking it too far.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for having me on here. So Duran Finney, I am a field security manager with the Dallas field office. So I'm based in Dallas, but I also support the Denver field office, and what we call McCopco South District, which is the corporate-owned restaurants within McDonald's. So McDonald's is split between franchise-owned and corporate-owned. So I also support the corporate-owned locations as well. And my job being a security manager entails a lot. So we deal with anything from burglaries at the locations. We support operators when it comes to robberies, burglaries, scams. You'd be surprised the amount of scams that happen where people try to scam restaurants out of money. Then we also deal with different preventative measures as far as how to deal with customers and how to handle disruptive customers or guests that come into the restaurant or are on the property for that matter. We teach, coach, train to educate operators and organizations and restaurants on how to deal with those situations. And then also I support McCopco corporate-owned restaurants in different surveys. So we go to restaurants and we do surveys and how to mitigate, lessen the chances for security mishaps and safety mishaps to happen at locations. So there's a lot that encompasses the security role, but just kind of that's in general what we do. Thanks.
Fantastic. And as you guys can see, we have a lot of different types of career paths online today. So you guys will get to ask some really good questions. I see one that I wonder, why is the ice cream machine always broken? Someone's already asked that, but we'll get to that later on. So we have a lot of students listening, some middle school and some high school students. And so I want you guys to think back and share with us, what did you want to be when you were in high school? What were your dreams and aspirations? And how did your career journey land you where you are? So Chad, let's start with you. What did you want to be when you were in high school?
Well, initially, I want to play in the NFL, but could I have made that? Probably not, but hey, we got dreams. So, but as far as how my journey led to my current career, I could go down several different paths. But first, let's answer the fact that I got my accounting degree, Bachelor of Science in Accounting out of college. And I always knew I wanted to go to college, or at least I needed to, in order to earn the job or be able to work myself up the corporate ladder, so to speak. So with that, I knew accounting was a solid option to get a job or a career upon graduating. I also knew I was the only one. I knew I was the only one that was going to pay for it, as I'm the first person in my family to graduate college. So right there was going to be an uphill battle. But thank goodness for grants and financial aid. If you don't know what they are, definitely research, Google them. They're definitely there for your taking. So with that, receiving aid for college tuition and books was just for that, but I also had to get a job while attending college in order to pay my living expenses, apartment, house, food, vehicle, and such. So this is really the foundation of what propelled me into my first job, which is at Univision Communications, so the Hispanic media company, as they were looking for someone not only with a good or decent GPA, but also someone with a strong work ethic and positive progression within each capacity. Concurrently. So with that, I was with Univision for about 6.5 years, excuse me. And only about 15 months of that was in accounting. So I quickly realized accounting was not the route I wanted to take. So I transitioned into the finance side. So fortunate for me, I became pretty tight with the CFO at the time, and he brought me over to the finance side. Whereas more forward-looking, much more in-depth from an operational standpoint, meaning more heavily involved in building the strategy of the business to grow sales and bottom line cash flow. So in that capacity, I quickly increased responsibility with 3 promotions over the next 5 years, and eventually ended my career there handling our corporate sales division, mainly hosting concerts, which is pretty interesting, to say the least. And then also launching our digital properties related to our TV and radio stations. So ended there and then came over to McDonald's, and it's hard to believe, but I'm in year 9 with McDonald's and having the wonderful opportunity to be here with you all today. So I appreciate it.
One of our students asked, where'd you go to college, Chad?
I went to the University of North Texas.
Oh,
Second.
First,
I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. So I went there for a couple of years and then transferred down to North Texas.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chad. Susie, what did you want to be when you were in high school?
So I will tell you that I started as a crew person at McDonald's when I was in high school. So I was working at McDonald's and never in my wildest dreams would I think that here so many years later, I am here at McDonald's. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to go to law school and be that, that lawyer like on TV, that's the one that you see on TV. Mm-hmm. So I worked at McDonald's this whole time while I was going to college, going to night school and stuff. So when I finished my degree, I decided I wanted to be a teacher. Instead of going to law school, I decided to focus on teaching. And so when I did start teaching, I actually kept working at McDonald's in the summertime. And because, during the year, you're so busy during the year, those 9 months, but in the summertime, it's just like I, stayed working at McDonald's just to get that extra income and that fun money, I used to call it. And again, never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would, still be with McDonald's. On my 4th year of teaching high school, coming back for the summer, the regional manager asked me, "Wow, Susie, why don't you just teach our folks instead of, teaching high school kids?" And I thought about it, and I thought, okay, it's something I'm already doing, and started teaching leaders of our McDonald's restaurants. And it was pretty cool because I kind of knew what they're experiencing, having experienced it myself. So now, a few years down the road, I've done the HR, the human resources manager role as well. So kind of, didn't experience different departments. I worked in operations similar to what Bryce does. I did that position for a little while as well. So there's so much different growth opportunities by just being able to go from one department to another. And now I'm back in the training department. So skills that you learn at your very first job, I think you can apply throughout different departments. And when it comes to leadership skills, it doesn't matter if you're selling shoes or selling hamburgers, those leadership skills and people skills come in handy no matter what job or even what level you're at.
That's fantastic, Susie. And I like how you mentioned how you transitioned from teaching, in a school setting and then teaching and then training corporately. So we have a lot of students that may be in education and training fields or have an interest in teaching and not realizing that corporations do have an avenue for you to utilize those skills. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to pivot over to Bryce. Bryce, tell us, what did Bryce want to be in high school?
In high school, I really didn't have any plans or goals of what I wanted to be. It was just moving along with the flow of things. So that's why once I got out of high school, I joined the military. So I figured that would give me some direction and discipline in my life, and it kind of did. So I spent 25 years in the Air Force, and then after that, I wanted a new challenge in life. So I got out of the Air Force, or retired, and I applied for McDonald's and got a job in the administration office. So I worked in there for like 2 years and got to learn a lot of McDonald's. So it was kind of eye-opening to see the outside of McDonald's and then come inside and see the corporate America versus, how the military works, which is a lot of the same things. The structure's the same and things like that. So that was cool. And then after about 2 years of working in the administrative side, I was given an opportunity to join the operations team. So I worked in McDonald's restaurant for about 6 months, trying to learn everything about the operations side of it. So then when I go into the restaurant and tell them how to do things, I knew what I was talking about. So then for like the last 2 or 3 years, I've been doing that. So I'm responsible for about 50 McDonald's within the Houston area that I go to daily, quarterly, weekly, monthly, and check on them and make sure they're, again, staying up to the standards and they're doing other things that we need them to do.
Fantastic. So we had some students say if they go into the McDonald's in Houston and say they know Bryce, can they eat for free? I don't know. Try it, students. See what happens.
Depending on which one you go in, you might get lucky.
We'll see how much weight your name carries around. I'm okay. It wasn't the students. It was me. I'm gonna try it. Veronica, tell us what you wanted to be in high school and your path into marketing.
So when I was in high school, I wanted to be an artist, maybe a fashion design artist, something in the art realm. I wasn't really sure. I also wanted to be a doctor at one point. It was kind of a mixture, probably a veterinarian. I thought I would get a Corvette and put like my initials on it and be like Vet's Vet. I was all over the place in high school. Marketing, I got into it because it kind of was a combination of my creative side and then that business side coming together. Because we do a lot of the creative work, or at least get to see it and manage it. And so we get that creative feel that I needed, or that void filled. But then I get to do some of the strategy work. That was fun. I actually am one of those rare people that majored in marketing and actually work in marketing. A lot of people that work in marketing did not go to school for it. I got my start though at an advertising agency for a few years. And then I actually worked for McDonald's, one of my first jobs after going to college, getting my MBA, went back to McDonald's in the Atlanta region for a few years. And then I actually left the company. I did more brand work. I worked for Hanes Brands. I worked for Dr. Pepper. And then you never quite leave McDonald's. You always just kind of come back around. So this is my second year back with McDonald's again in the field office. So definitely a mixture of how I got into marketing, but marketing degree, advertising agency was definitely a plus when you're trying to get into marketing for sure. And then I also did sales for a little bit too. Sales is always good when you're in marketing because you're constantly going to be selling them something. It just depends on what it is.
Fantastic. Thanks, Veronica. Deron, we're back at you. Tell us, what did you want to be when you were in high school?
All right, sounds good. So I'll give you a little background. So I'm originally from Delaware, and I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I went to school, and I'm not too far removed from you all students. So I graduated in 2007 from high school. And I had aspirations of, I played football all through middle school, high school, and also played football in college. And so I thought that was going to be my career path. Didn't really put a whole lot of thought into what I really, really wanted it to be. But I knew I wanted to do something where I was helping people and working with people. So my major was criminal justice, and my thought was that I was going to be law enforcement. So while I was in college, I worked for Walmart, did what they call asset protection, so catching shoplifters. And then I also worked with Best Buy doing the same thing, catching shoplifters and looking for employees that stole from the company. Once I graduated college, I got a job with Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister, and I worked with them for about 8 years and moved around a little bit, worked in Miami and then soon to Texas, and did the same thing, asset protection, looking for shoplifters and employees that stole from the company, and then came on board with McDonald's into security. So, this was never what I thought I was going to do when it comes to like security and working for McDonald's. But the opportunity presented itself. I love it. I love being here. It's a great company, and there's so many different avenues and it doesn't matter what you want to do. There's probably something in McDonald's. There's a place in McDonald's for that. So, and I'm finding that out. And I found that out once I came on with McDonald's. So, definitely keep your mind open, students, to, various companies, and just be open-minded, because there's so many different departments and areas within corporations that will probably cover something that you're interested in. Because when I talk to people about what I do and I say security and I tell them McDonald's, they're like, McDonald's has security? But yeah, you'd be surprised the amount of, homicides and different things that happen at McDonald's that we have to deal with and we're involved with. So, as someone mentioned up here about being in your career path, I majored in criminal justice. This is somewhat up my career path, being in the security with McDonald's. So I enjoy it, and it aligns with what I went to school for. So I have some, a lot of skills that can be brought to the table with the job that I do with McDonald's. And like I said, I enjoy it. So that's it.
I love that. Thanks, Duran. One of the students put in the chat, you said you graduated in 2007, and they said they were 1 year old. They were a 1 year old when you graduated. I don't think they take you too far removed. They're like, no.
I was laughing at you when you said that. I was like, he obviously
right. Does he know it's 2021? But
I guess I shouldn't say
we're the older millennials now. we are old now.
Chad, I'm not even going to tell you when I graduated. Yeah, or even when I started at McDonald's. Yeah. It's just been many, many years. Yeah.
Fantastic. And panelists, I want to encourage you. Students are also asking questions in the chat, and I know Susie and Bryce have been in there answering questions as well. Feel free to jump in there. I love hearing your stories about what you guys do and how you got into your field. And one of the things for students that it's important to know is there are things that we love about our jobs, but there can also be some things that are pretty challenging that we have to, deal with daily, yet we continue to show up. I guess we'll start with Susie, but tell us a little bit about kind of like what a typical day looks like for you, and what is the most challenging part of your job?
So I would tell you that prior to COVID, the challenging part was that we've traveled a lot. As a training consultant, we cover such a huge area. And one of the challenges, I think, would be that probably about 50 to 75% of my month was spent on the road, traveling from place to place. And I know some of you are thinking, ooh, that sounds like fun, traveling, being in different hotels and stuff like that. Yeah, it is fun to a certain point, but it does get a little bit old sometimes, and especially if you have a family and, during the week, if you're traveling that much, it does get a little bit challenging with, balancing that personal. Prior to COVID, I said. Since COVID, I think the challenges, now that you can basically teach virtually and to people all over the country. I mean, there are folks that, like I said earlier, log on from New York and from California, and I am, responsible for delivering a learning session to them. The challenge now is more about technology and more about getting, folks engaged from a virtual standpoint, when we're so used to, breaking into groups and learning in a different way. This year has been a little bit challenging from that standpoint, that, we're having to learn a little bit different than the way that we used to learn. And I'm telling you, I'm one of those people that is anxious to go back to that face-to-face, even if it means more travel. I am anxious to be able to, spend more time asking deeper questions and stuff, because, we have more time usually when we do those live sessions versus the virtual session.
Very good. Yes, the travel is fun at first, but it can get old pretty quickly. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go up to Veronica. Veronica, what is the most challenging part of your job, and even just about marketing in general? Someone asked that question in the chat.
So as I mentioned, the owner operators get a say in some of the regional marketing strategy. So one of the most challenging things about my job is what I like to affectionately call herding the cats, trying to get all the owner operators on the same page. Some of our co-ops have up to 60 operators. So you're trying to get 60 people to see the strategy for marketing in that particular co-op city all the same way. And of course, as you can imagine, we have some operators or people who own the stores that have been with McDonald's for 50 years. They are, generations, their families adopted. So they have marketing ideas for 50 years that they want to share. And they feel that those might be some of the best ways to push the business. So it is a lot of talking to people, trying to get them on board with the plan. And then, of course, trying to just get so many different people to go the right direction, the same direction, to kind of make sure that you drive them and push them towards things more like digital and technology, and making sure they know how the app works, and that we need to do more mobile advertising versus maybe TV advertising, because that's the way the eyeballs are. That's where more people are looking to. That's probably the most difficult part of my job for sure. The question about, what was the question about the marketing role?
Yeah, just kind of going into the marketing field, challenges to get into the marketing field in general.
Yeah, getting into marketing is tricky. And I don't know why it's that way. I would probably suggest, if you're interested in marketing, the best thing to do is to look for a position in an advertising agency. Advertising agency is a great way to learn the creative piece of the business. When I say creative, I mean the background on digital, the background on creative briefs, and what we do to show our different agencies what the advertisement should look like. It's a great way to just get those partnerships with other companies, because a lot of people from the agency side actually end up working for the company that they worked for the agency for, just because it's a good fit and they understand the needs of the company. Another suggestion is definitely internships are the best way. Internships, if you're in college or about to go to college, finding an internship in marketing, finding something where you get that experience. That's how I got one of my first jobs. I interned when I was in grad school. It definitely helps. Interns and advertising agency.
Good. Thanks a lot, Veronica. I kind of want to piggyback on something that you mentioned, and I think it may have been Chad or Bryce that mentioned it earlier, and that difference between the owner-operator locations and the corporation. So who wants to take that question and maybe answer that, and then tell us about their biggest challenge?
I can jump on that. I don't know, Chad or Bryce, if you guys have anything you can chime in, but I know I mentioned I support the corporate owned restaurants and also franchisees. So
Cutting out.
Yeah, I think we lost.
Yeah, so really, I think Duran is really the only one that deals directly with both the franchise restaurants and McOpCo or company-owned restaurants.
First, just so you all know, not standing out. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You cut out for a minute, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. No, I was saying that. I support the corporate-owned and also the franchise restaurants. And just to clarify, you guys, security isn't, you're standing out in front of a restaurant, with a security shirt on, securing a building. That's not at all my role. So it's more so, we're doing surveys, we're doing WebEx calls, conference calls, we're going out, meeting with operators, we're surveying restaurants, stuff like that. So roughly about 2,500 restaurants in total that I support, and throughout Texas, all the way up to Minnesota, over to Idaho, and down to Colorado. And so with all of this, the biggest challenge with all of this is making sure that your response time and you're consistent with how you respond and how you support an operator out in Idaho or in say North Dakota, the same way you support an operator in downtown New Orleans. So, you know, there's needs in downtown New Orleans, and there's also needs in Oklahoma City. So just making sure that you're able to balance and you respond to all these operators in a timely fashion. And then also keeping top of mind, your direct job is to respond to the corporate-owned restaurants' concerns and their issues as well. So just balancing all of that, I'd say, is the biggest challenge. But it's since the pandemic, it's made it a little bit easier because all of it's been virtual. So prior to pandemic, you know, we were asked to travel to certain locations. So you had to prioritize, hey, am I going to go to Idaho and spend my travel going to Idaho and not go to, you know, Houston this month. So since pandemic, I'm able to do things virtually. And so I can stretch myself a little bit more. But to answer that, the biggest challenge is just making sure you balance your time and you're giving enough of you to each operator, each need that an operator or an organization raises to you when it comes to security.
One of the students asked a question for you, Duran, is a part of your job making sure that no one can take the restaurant's ideas? Like if there's a unique idea, that someone doesn't steal the recipe to the secret sauce.
Yeah, so that's somewhat covered in what we do, but not a whole lot. We call that brand protection. And so we have a certain department and area within what we call GSSI, Global Safety, Security, and Intelligence. And then there's other branches of the company, IT and stuff that make sure that information is protected. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, ideas of the company and things of that nature, there's a certain thing called confidentiality where we all kind of, you know, we're not talking about too much stuff outside of the work realm. So I would say, no, that's not my direct job to protect the secret sauce, but protecting the people, the business, customers, and all that is what we do from a security standpoint.
Can I just clarify one thing too? You know, when we talk about all these thousands and thousands of restaurants that are in just here in the US, 95% of them are individually owned and operated by franchisees, which Duran refers to as operators. So when you hear us say operators, these are the individually owned and operated restaurants, franchised restaurants. So when you think about all of the restaurants that you visit, hopefully everybody goes to visit our restaurants, 95% of them are owned by individuals and not by the corporation. There are some cities where there are no corporate owned restaurants. So when we talk about that, mainly our main restaurants that we deal with are franchise owned. So I just wanted to clarify that so you guys can see a scope of the difference between franchise and corporate owned.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Susie. And
one little nugget to add too, sorry, talking about the secret sauce. We have an awesome legal team and a brand team that is solely focused on protecting the brand, protecting the arches, protecting what the arches and what the colors we can use and look at. And it goes all the way down from we can use this color, we can use this font, we could use these agencies, there's several layers of protection. So those are the people that are really protecting the secret sauce.
Very good, very good. I just kind of want to, because we're getting lots of questions about the operator and the franchise owners. What does it take to become a franchise owner? Can anyone answer that?
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah.
Well, first, it takes a lot of money. Yeah, it's Evan. Yeah, you're right. Money, LOL. That's absolutely correct. So it really, I think the starting point is traditionally it's been around the $750,000 range in unencumbered funds, which means it's straight cash, essentially. So you don't have to sell a house, you don't have to sell any retirement or sell whatever else to have that cash available to put as a downstroke to purchase a restaurant or multiple. Now, since over the past few years, I think they've dropped it closer to, I think, 500,000 is the minimum. Ideally, you probably want to stick in the range of at least $1 million or a little bit over $1 million, because that'll get you to at least 2 restaurants, possibly 3. And that's truly the sweet spot. Once you get to that many, then you're setting yourself up for better success going forward.
And can I add to that, Chad? One thing that is unique about McDonald's and why we have so much success as our franchisees do is because we call our franchisees are owners and operators. So we require them to go through the management training all the way through Hamburger University. And that involves a lot of hours of working in the restaurant and going through all of the leadership training that our restaurant managers go through. Our owners have to go through before they are approved to own a restaurant. So that's kind of unique to McDonald's. Other brands don't require that of their operators, and maybe that's why they're not as successful when it comes to the franchise program that we have at McDonald's.
Fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being willing to pivot into a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
So students, I think, like, you know, if a few classes get together, put your birthday money together, you'll be well on your way to owning a McDonald's, right?
You guys are getting some pretty good birthday gifts. So.
Right, they're appearing. Yeah. So Chad, we were on that path of talking about the most challenging part of our job. But you want to share yours?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So sticking on money. That's essentially what I do. I interact with the franchisees. That's my sole position here in terms of their financial solvency or their financial, I guess, what's another word? Financial health. So my interactions with them is we're talking about very delicate conversations. It's not often you want someone to come to you and kind of pick apart your financial position, especially when they hold it so dear to the heart. And if there's a situation where a franchisee, unfortunately, could be deteriorating from a financial standpoint, then that's a difficult conversation to have with them, because it's more, all right, here's where you are, this is where we see you're going, how are we going to get out of this situation? If there's not a possible situation to get out of, then there goes down a different path where, you know, potential for sale and or downsize, and then those restaurants would be transacted or acquired from another franchisee. With that, there could be some other conversations that I have with them regarding a change in policy, or even a policy that impacts their restaurant negatively from a financial standpoint. And I don't want to get too detailed because I don't want to put you to sleep, but that's the gist of it. And I guess the last thing I'll tell you is just more trying to provide a calming influence, because Veronica mentioned it earlier. I wouldn't say herding cats, but that I do. That's mainly her job. But it is purely, we have a strategy in place every year, even multiple years. And there are many folks, well, let me back up. There's about 220 owner-operators within just our field office. It's about 175 organizations, over 1,500 restaurants. So that's a lot of people with very individualistic ideas, suggestions, and ways they want to go about the business. So, but there's only one strategy that the field office has in place. And it's a matter of trying to corral those folks that are maybe kind of off the hinges a little bit and try to get them to understand, you know, the bigger picture. But yeah, that's part of what, not just my job, but all 5 of us, really.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. Bryce, last but not least, what's the most challenging part of what you do in operations?
Okay, so with my job, I'm responsible for about 48 restaurants between Houston and Beaumont that I have to visit once a quarter. So that's 4 times a year at the very minimum, depending on what else we got going on during the course of a year as far as promotions and things we're bringing to the customers. So one of the type of visits I do is like a secret shopper. I'll go through the drive-through and make sure they're being courteous, make sure they're not too slow or they're trying to be fast and they got my order correct and things of that nature. And then I'll go inside and do the same. So during the course of that visit, I'll have to talk to the general manager or the operator, the good, the bad, and the ugly of my visit. So imagine doing 40 some of those every quarter, 4 times a year. It's a lot of paperwork. So I'm constantly answering emails and phone calls and text messages and sending out text messages and emails and just coordinating a lot of communication about what I see, what I do. And that's just when I visit the store. I still have a supervisor that I have to talk to and communicate all things of what I'm doing and the things he gives me. So in addition to visiting his restaurants, I'm also in charge of the delivery aspect of all the restaurants in the Houston area. So that's all Grubhub, Postmates, DoorDash, and Uber Eats. So I'm like in a liaison between those corporations and McDonald's. So whatever issue or question or launching delivery in those restaurants, I'm the person they come to. So again, to my visits, I have to do delivery stuff. So my biggest issue or hardest part of my day is just coordinating all the communication and things I have to do. So like I have a list of 10 things I have to do every day. Then by lunchtime, I have 3 more things added to that list. And by the end of the day, I only got 2 of those 10 things done. So the next day starts with 10 more things. So it's just a matter of time management and prioritizing my day every day. And it just changes constantly and being able to be fluid with the changes because my boss might give me 2 things I have to do today. And by lunchtime, those aren't important anymore. And I have 2 more things I have to do. So just being able to be flexible with what you have to do and not be like, oh my goodness, just know it's going to change. That's what I have to deal with.
Fantastic. Someone wants to know if you get to eat the food that you get when you're secret shopping.
I do. I get to eat. I don't eat all of it because then I'd be really, really, really fat. But I do eat some of it.
Very good. So as we're getting ready to wrap up, can you believe we're this close to our time frame? But students, if you want to ask questions live, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and raise your hand, and I will pull you over so you can ask questions live. And as we are doing that, getting ready to take questions, I want to ask you guys as we're wrapping up to think, are there any words of wisdom or advice that you would give to students as we're getting ready to close out and as they journey through life themselves? Jerome, let's start with you.
All right. So the word I would give is resilient. Just to be resilient in everything that you do. So that can mean, while you're still in school, finishing out the best you can, and always keeping, your mind on where you see yourself in the next 5 years, and start doing things now that'll prepare you for the next 5 years, and strive for excellence and resiliency in everything even if you start out as a crew person at McDonald's or, working at a 7-Eleven, do it to the best of your ability, and just have your eye on the prize, and just know that the future is brighter for you as long as you take care of things now, and just always have a leg to stand on, a back leg to stand on, and know where you came from and just be resilient in all areas. So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. I saw some other questions that were in the Q&A and just about types of colleges to go through, and they wanted to know your secret sauce, your favorite sauce. So, but one of the things that Deron had answered, someone asked, do you think going to college helped you in your job today? Deron said that he feels like it made him more competitive. Yeah, very good, very good. So raise your hand, students, or you can go in the chat or the Q&A. So, and we'll continue with our words of wisdom. Chad, let's go over to you. Words of wisdom for students as we close today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll try to piggyback a little bit on what Deron was just mentioning. Resiliency is definitely something to keep in mind, but do have an understanding. It is okay to fail. There are going to be failures. It's going to happen. I've had many of them over the past 5 years. I know I'm going to have several more over the next 5 years. But it's about how you, acknowledge it, learn from it, and how you respond to it. So And I'll just give you a couple quotes. This one's from Michael Jordan. I'm pretty sure everyone knows this guy. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded. So that right there, I mean, one of the best. Admitting failures is pretty impressive. The last thing, I'm not sure who the originator of this quote is, but a friend told me this, and it's how you do anything is how you do everything. Just think about that quote. And just a couple of examples to kind of expand it. Integrity is not a pick and choose time. What I say or do in front of you, in front of this person, should be the same as I say and do in front of another person. So with that, just remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's my word.
I love that. Thanks, Chad. We have a student that has raised their hand to ask a question. Will you tell us your name and ask your question? You're on mute if you're asking. Well, it's not going. Okay, well, we'll see if we can work that out, but we'll continue with our words of wisdom. Let's go to Bryce. Oh, there we go.
Why is the ice cream machine always broken?
I knew it was gonna happen.
So I have an answer, and then I'm
going to say that one's not
operations.
Me. Yeah.
So this is what my knowledge of operations is limited being in marketing, but we kind of dabble. We have to know a little bit about a little bit, right? So I know that they clean the ice cream machine during the day. And the message that we're trying to get through with the crew is the way to communicate that to the consumer. So when you go through the restaurant, they're like, the ice cream machine is down. A lot of time it's not broken, they're cleaning it. However, the way they say it to you is it being broken does not help our reputation of always having broken ice cream machines. It would be better if they were saying ice cream machine is being cleaned right now, so we don't have ice cream available, versus them saying it is broken. Not saying that there are some times when it's not broken, but a lot of the times the machine is just being cleaned. So I'm trying to figure out, I know National's looking at that too. It's like crew talking points and things we can do to make sure that they're communicating the right way to tell the customer that the machine is not available versus just saying it's broken. But I'm gonna turn it over to my ops partners to see if you have something to add.
You hit the nail on the head. That's what it is. A lot of times it's that they're being clean. And like when I go into restaurants and check on these things, it's like your parents telling you to clean your rooms and you don't do it. A lot of times some of the crew are getting told to clean the machine and they don't clean it on time, or they take their time with it, or they're cleaning it and something happens, or sometimes they're not being careful enough with it, might break a part of the machine. So it's a lot of things, but 90% of the time that's being clean. And like Veronica said, it's the choice of words they use to communicate to the customers, rather than saying it's down for cleaning, which could really take like an hour or so, or it could be like in the last 10 minutes, if they could take the time to say, if you give us 10 minutes, it'll be up, or something to that extent. They're just being responsive, like quick response saying, yes, it's down, or it's closed, or, you know, whatever the case may be, because some people just don't think with the choice of the words they use.
Well, it's equally disappointing, whether it's broken or it's getting cleaned. I want my Shamrock Shake, but so Bryce, can you stay on? What is your words of wisdom for the students?
Words of wisdom, I would say, would be step outside the box and experience different things, because you don't really know who you are until you walk in someone else's shoes or learn something different in life. Because again, when I was in high school, I really didn't have a focus or desire or goal. When I joined the Air Force, I saw a lot of different places and a lot of different things and met a lot of different people. So my experience of life was really narrow in this box until I got in the military and met a lot of different people and talked to them and learned stuff about people. I started to understand that the world is bigger than just me and my little, slice of the neighborhood. So that opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I'm able to now to talk to different people in different settings, different situations, because I've been in all these other experiences and things like that. So as much as you can experience different things, I would challenge you to do that. You need to be uncomfortable. If you're really comfortable with everything, then you're not challenging yourself, you're not learning, you're not growing.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bryce. Veronica, words of wisdom.
Okay, words of wisdom. I'm trying to think of something that hasn't been discussed. I think mine would probably be, don't be afraid to ask for help. No one starts out being an expert in their field. No one starts that way. Someone always had a mentor or had a sponsor, had someone that even helped them along the way or guided them on different ways to either navigate problems at work, problems at home, problems at school, or just even things you're interested in and want to get into. So always ask for help if you need it, ask for opinions, get a board. I have a soundboard, if you will, as far as, hey, I have this idea, let me bounce this off you, or I want to get into this, can you help me get into this, or best ways to navigate. It's never a bad thing to ask for help. Everybody needs help and needs advice.
Love that. I love that. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, let's go to Susie. Susie, what words of wisdom do you have for our students?
I think I would kind of piggyback on everything that my co-panelists have shared. One of the things that we teach in our leadership classes is to approach life, and it doesn't matter what level you're at, with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And all that really means is that you look at, how can I make things better, instead of, well, that's just the way it is. So if you approach that, any challenges that you come across, and everybody knows that the past year has been quite a challenge for a lot of us. If you approach it with a growth mindset and just a more positive twist to it, it'll all work out. And just remember that you can't control, there's a lot of things, you can't control somebody else's behavior. You can't control, the things that happen in the environment, or maybe things that are happening in the, even in your classroom, or even something that your teacher does or whatever, but you can control your own behavior and your own thoughts. And we just say all the time, choose to be positive and choose to think in a growth mindset. How could things be better? Or what can I do to make things better?
Fantastic. Well, guys, that is wonderful advice. You guys have shared such great tidbits with the students today and given them a lot to think about their career paths. So I just like to thank all of our panelists today for just being such great speakers for the students today. I'd like to thank all of our students for watching and for your excellent questions and for just being so engaged with our panelists today. So we are right at time. You guys were perfect. So students, this video is available on YouTube for a week. And then by your teacher's request, you guys can see it again. So again, thank you, everybody. What a wonderful time. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.